Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 24th of July. I am most certainly going to start talking about my time in Churchill and possibly some more about the ordination from Monday evening. But today I feel I need to talk to you a bit, not about politics, although it comes out of politics, but about women and the role of women and the fact that we are, and we have been since men have been. On my way to work, coming back from Winnipeg Tuesday morning, I was listening to the news and I heard Vice President Kamala Harris's first speech, her stump speech from Wisconsin, and the power with which she spoke, a power of the recognition of women and the power that women have to vote. And it got me thinking, maybe we need a president for women worldwide. And wouldn't Kamala Harris make an excellent president for women? You see, I got thinking about the ordination from the night before, where two women were ordained priests in Christ's Holy Catholic Church in the Anglican Diocese of Rupert's Land in Winnipeg. And the reading, the gospel we shared, the feast day, was that of the Feast of Mary Magdalene, who, whether people like to admit it or not, was the very first apostle, the very first person that Jesus spoke to upon rising from the dead, and the first person he sent to tell others that he was alive, that he had risen from the dead. That is the definition of an apostle. And Mary Magdalene, whether people like to hear it or not, was the first person, regardless of gender, was the first person that Jesus chose to speak to. He could have chosen to speak to the other two disciples who came and looked into the empty tomb. He could have chosen to speak to anybody, but he chose to speak to Mary Magdalene, as is evidenced in the written scriptures. And for how many years? For 2,000 years, for 10,000 years, for all of the years of the history of Homo sapiens, it seems that women have been, in certain cultures anyway, have been set aside. They have been denigrated. They have been pushed aside, or people decide that women should not be listened to, or their vote should not count. Last week on Facebook, I saw and reposted a picture of probably a dozen or so women who gathered together to create the first women's bank in the United States. And the very first day that the bank opened, they had over $1 million in deposits from individual women gathering to bring their money, because before that women were not allowed to have a bank account without their husband's signature. What do you pray God happened to women who weren't married by choice or otherwise? I remember being probably about, well, it was before I turned 17, because we were still living in Niagara Falls. I remember my mom was so excited because she got her first credit card in her own name. It was a Sears credit card, the Sears store. And I remember sitting in her car. I remember where we were sitting when she told me she got that card, and it was the first time that she was able to get something in her own name without my father, her husband, being a co-signer. Pretty amazing, isn't it? To this day, every time I noticed when we changed our plates over from Alberta to Manitoba, that everything we own is in Rob's name. When we were in Halifax moving, we weren't moving, but we were preparing to move to Ontario, and we were changing from Bell store our cell phones to TELUS. I specifically spoke to the gentleman who was the salesperson and said to him, we need my name to be the account holder, because when Rob was deployed, he wasn't there to give his PIN number to speak for his voice to be the one that asked for changes or information. Oh, yep, absolutely. I had to run back to the Bell store in the mall, on the other side of the mall, to get some information as he punched in our information. And we didn't know until a couple months later when I called TELUS to ask them something about our bill, and they informed me that I did not have the right to have that information because the account name was put in my husband's name, was in Rob's name, and we were never able to change that. We would have to actually change the contract completely, get new cell phone numbers and everything for his name to be removed and my name to be put as the main contact. It just goes to show that we as women are still even in a society that says that we have the right to vote, we have the right to have credit cards and bank accounts, we can be bishops as well as priests and deacons, we can be presidents and prime ministers, we can do all of these things, and yet the default for men and even still for a lot of women is that the man goes first. And so when I was listening to Vice President Harris speaking in Wisconsin, just driving down the road, I found myself in tears, so much so that I almost thought I'd have to pull over because I couldn't see. Listening to her speaking as a woman about the right for a woman to decide about her own reproductive health, for the right of every person to be able to vote and have their vote counted. Why is this? For the right for people to have health care. And in Canada, this is a thing, because in healthcare, we do have universal health care. So for me to hear someone talking about people who you have to have insurance to get health care, and the insurance, and we're here too, like we have health care, we have universal health care, but additional insurance, if you want that, often precludes pre-existing conditions. For instance, my own healthcare plan in my diocese just changed to go with a different provider, and we didn't find out until after we had signed the documents that any new employees coming in would have to have a physical before they would be allowed to enter the plan, which makes me wonder if they did have a pre-existing condition, would they even be allowed to have the plan, or would it be so expensive that they wouldn't be able to take it on? Healthcare, universal healthcare, should be a no-brainer. If one of the questions she asked in her speech was, what about women who have survived breast cancer? We know that women who have survived breast cancer, people who have survived breast cancer, are at just as high risk as anyone else, if not more, of having a recurrence of some kind of cancer, which means there's further treatments and doctor's visits and things that have to happen to ensure their health as they continue forward. Even let alone the things that happen to their bodies in the dealing with the cancer, the immune system being degraded and all of those things, and the other side effects of the cancer treatments. If women don't have access to universal health care, how do they deal with that? And if they don't have the ability to vote, or if they don't have the ability to make decisions about their own reproductive health, how long will it take before women wouldn't have the ability to make any decisions about their own health, period, if that is the trend that is happening? And while that's happening in the States and not in Canada, my fear is that Canada will go as the States goes. We see it quite often that the politics that float around south of the border tend to eke themselves across the border, and we don't have a wall on our border. Our border is very porous, as everyone knows, and those things do come across. Those attitudes do happen, and that is terrifying, because in Canada we have only had one female prime minister, and in that case, Kim Campbell was not given an opportunity to prove whether or not she would be good as prime minister, because she inherited the position and then very quickly had to go into an election, which her party lost abysmally, to the point they lost party status, I believe. Canada may seem in many ways to be immune to these things, but we are not. And if we listen to the politics of the day, and the things that are being said, some of those very same things, those very same fears are happening. This is terrifying to me, because we shouldn't be living in a day and age where just because you are a woman, you are told such things as I'm often told in the comments from my videos, that let alone being a bishop, I can't possibly be a priest because I'm a girl, because I'm a female. Like, no reasoning. That, the argument being that somewhere in the Bible Paul said, well, Jesus never said that. And as soon as we start elevating Paul above Jesus, we have a little bit of a problem there. But absolutely, I am able to be a priest in the church that I serve in, and then I'm also able to be a bishop, and here I am. But it's terrifying to me to think of how quickly we could lose the very things we think of as inherent rights. And I am excited, instead of terrified now, to see what might happen in the States, to celebrate that Kamala Harris presumably will be the person on the top of the tickets for the Democratic Party in the States in November. Not because I care so much about American politics, but because I care about Canadian politics, and because I care about citizenry and the role of women as citizens. The role of women as citizens in this beautiful country. And so I think we need to champion women. We need to celebrate those women who stand up and stand out and speak their voice and speak with authority and speak with integrity and intelligence and with intentionality when they speak about the need for women to be treated as human beings, as is every other human being needing to be treated. As women go, so will go minorities and LGBTQ two-spirited plus and all of these other people who are finding themselves on the fringes. If women who have been on the fringes for, it seems, eternity can seriously break through these glass ceilings, maybe we can recognize that we can reach out our hands and gather in everyone else and pull them with us. So, maybe we should be chanting Kamala for President of Women. What do you think? I wish her all the best, and I pray that that the right person is chosen to be the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States because of the impact that will have on the whole world, because we really are a global village. But right now, I am celebrating the fact that a woman is being celebrated, and people are excited because there's a strong woman who is being taken seriously. Because that, at the end of the day, is exactly what needs to happen. Women need to be taken seriously. Have a great day. God bless, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.